Oh, yeah. We're gonna talk about it. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. It's a place to be. Teaching art collaboratively. It's a show that lets you know where art goes creatively. Talk about it. It's a place to be. Teaching art collaboratively. It's a show that lets you know where art goes creatively. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about it. We're gonna talk about it.
Welcome to this special edition of Let's Talk About It, where today we're going to talk about the guidelines for you as a regular elementary ed teacher to do rodeo art with your students. So the really cool thing about rodeo art is it connects to so many different ways, so many different pieces of literature. So I'm going to show you some of the pieces of literature that we've used in our classrooms, or I've used in my classroom, and then we're going to talk about more specifically the rules of rodeo, what the judges are looking for, as well as what makes a winner, what makes these pieces win. So some of the books that we've used or that I've used in the past are this Every Cowgirl series. So we have Every Cowgirl Needs Dancing Boots, Every Cowgirl Goes to School, Every Cowgirl Loves a Rodeo, as well as Every Cowgirl Needs a Horse. So I've used these. My kids love them. They're cute little just short books about this little girl who wants to be a cowgirl. Now, so you don't have to go the direct cowboy tech, the direct rodeo route. You can use things like Old MacDonald's Farm for our little ones, pre-K and elementary. You can use Farmer in the Dell as well. And another one that I've used with kindergarten in the past has been this book right here called Little Blue Truck, and it talks about different animals that you might see on a farm. So there are lots of different books. With my older kids, my older students, my fourth graders, and even your fifth graders, you could use the Eyewitness Texas book, which has a lot of pictures of things that have happened here in Texas, a lot of historical artifacts, as well as the Legend of the Bluebonnet and the Legend of the Indian Paintbrush are also really good books to bring in a little bit of history, a little bit of literature, as well as do some art. So we're going to talk about some of the main things that you need to look out for when you are doing your artwork. So I tell my students what makes a winner. And we talk about what makes a rodeo winner. Well, first of all, our rodeo winners have to do with rodeo. Okay, this is a beautiful little piece of art, a quick little sketch of some pine trees and snow. However, it has nothing to do with the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. So we want to make sure that whatever we're producing has something to do with the rodeo, has something to do with Texas, what life is like in Texas, past or present. So that is that's our first rule, is make sure that whatever you do, it has to do with Texas. Next, we want to make sure that we're filling our whole page. If I give you a piece of paper this size, I don't want you to draw real small. Okay, we want to fill our whole page. When we're coloring and we're adding color, we're adding texture, we want to make sure that we are nice and neat and that we don't scribble scratch. Okay, this was a cute little picture of a pig on a field, but our artist didn't spend enough time coloring it and just scribbled their way through it. Also, you'll notice my son has a little smiley face, and that's cute, but if we were to go outside and look at the sun, we wouldn't see a smiley face. So let's make sure that we're not putting smiley faces on our artwork. We have two big rules to really push your artwork from, oh, that's cute, to even better, to make it contest worthy, is the horizon line. So making sure our artwork has a horizon line. A horizon line is the line where the sky and the ground touch. And I always show my kids that, or tell my kids, you know, have you ever heard of the movie Moana? Okay, well, you know how she sings, see the line where the sky meets the sea? Well, I like to change it and say, see the line where the sky meets the sea. It's called the horizon line instead of it calls me. So it's just a cute little thing. And you can sing it if you'd like. I usually do, but I'm not going to sing it for you today. You'll have to imagine it. So I have a little pig here on a little farm, but right now my pig and my farm, they're floating. They're not sitting on anything. So in order to take this piece of artwork from good to great, we need to make sure that we add a horizon line, a line that shows the viewer where the ground is and where the sky is. So making sure we're adding a horizon line to ground our animals and buildings. Okay? And lastly, the last big rule that I want to talk about is utilizing your space. Now, this will generally be for your little bit older kids, but it's important for all of our students. And the big 3 vocabulary words that you can really touch on for using space is foreground, which is anything kind of at the bottom of your paper. It's right up front, the closer you see, or the closer to the viewer. Your middle ground, which is in the middle of your picture. It's kind of what's halfway back. And your background, which is what's way in the back of your picture. And I always like to teach my kids about foreground, middle ground, and background by using their hand. So if you have your hand out like this, your hand is going to look smaller. It's in the background. It's going to look smaller. But the closer you get to your face, the larger your hand is going to look. Your hand's not actually getting bigger in size. It's just appearing as it's getting bigger in size as it's moving from the background to the middle ground to the foreground. So those are 3 big vocabulary words that I like to instill in my students. So foreground, again, which is what's right up in the front, right there, the first thing the viewer sees. The middle ground is kind of medium sized and it's in the middle of our picture. And then we have our background, which is what's way in the back. It's nice and small. Background is small, middle ground is medium, and foreground is large. So those are some of the vocabulary words I also teach when I do rodeo art. Now, so those are kind of the big ones on how to create a piece. We want to make sure that we have all the logistics for you, the teacher, set so that your students can be as successful as possible. So if you look down below, I've created a Rodeo Art Checklist that you can download, and it looks like this. So one of the things you need to make sure is that there's no student name on the front of the artwork. There can't be anything identifying that student. There's no name on the front of the artwork. There's no teacher name on the artwork. There's also no school name on the artwork. Rodeo art is being judged by blind judges. So I can't look at a piece of artwork and say, oh, that one is from so-and-so elementary, so I'm going to vote for that one. We want to make sure that all of our voting is completely based on the artwork itself, not on the little clues that are in the artwork. So no names, no teacher names, no school names. You also each need to make sure that each piece of artwork has a title. A lot of times your title can tell you a little bit about what's going on in the art piece. So for instance, last year I had a student who drew a picture of a cow, and the title of his piece was Holy Cow. So it was something fun, but it was still made sure it told you what was going on in the art piece. So every piece of artwork needs to have a title, and unfortunately, untitled is not considered a title. So this is a big one, especially for our older kids, the kids who want to get everything perfect. Is this artwork original? It needs to not be a copy. It has to be something that they came up with. I can't take a picture from every cowgirl needs dancing boots, and I can't take this and copy this, okay? Because that is copyrighted, and that's where you can go into that conversation about plagiarism, copyright, and how you need to make sure that you're giving credit to where credit is due. So we need to make sure that any idea that we come up with and that we put on our paper is completely our own. That also includes the internet. Unfortunately, you can't just Google longhorns and have a student draw a picture of a longhorn of a picture that they found off of Google. That's not considered a reliable source because it is not a picture that the teacher took or the student took. Now, if you have a picture of a longhorn or sheep or horse that you took from when you were at a farm, that you can use. It's just pictures off of Google. We need to shy away from those. which leads to the next point, which is we can't have any logos or slogans or licensed characters. So no SpongeBob, no Mickey Mouse, none of those things. And it doesn't get so much into that. The more problem is when we start drawing trucks, Chevy, Ford, Ram. Okay, those little logos, the circle for the Ford and the little bow tie for the Chevy, those are copyrighted logos, so we can't be using those as well. Also, if you're doing jeans, red stitching is considered Levi's, and so you can't use red stitching on jeans either. So now this next one might be a little confusing. It's called no second surface. And what that means is that I can't be going and cutting out things and gluing them together. Unfortunately for a Houston Livestock Show and rodeo, we cannot do collages. You can't glue things on top. So even if I draw a horse on this picture and a background, or a horse on this page and a background on this page, and I want to cut out my horse and glue it on, that's great, but that will not qualify for rodeo. Everything has to be done on one single sheet of paper or canvas. So we need to make sure that we're not cutting, we're not gluing. So I always told my kids when we did rodeo art, scissors and glue were put away, and we're not even gonna be tempted to use them. Okay. Now, those are all some of the logistics. Now we're getting into the more important things like your sizing. There is a size requirement, minimum and maximum for livestock show and rodeo. The minimum size is 11 by 14 inches, and that includes a 3.5-inch mat. All rodeo artwork must be matted. Okay, and I will mention that and talk about that in just a second. So you're double checking your size. Your minimum of your art piece is 11 by 14, and your mat is no more than 3.5 inches. The maximum of your art piece can be an 18 by 24, including your 3.5-inch mat. So making sure that your mats and your artwork are all the correct size. So your artwork needs to be matted. Now, if you're not sure how to mat, because I know a lot of people aren't, that's not a common skill, you can get some assistance by signing up for a matting workshop. We have a matting workshop on December 1st at Eisenhower High School, and to sign up for that, you can go to ePortal, and you find under Professional Developments the Visual Arts tab, and there are 2 sessions of a matting workshop where you can come and mat your artwork, and you can have people who are experienced artwork matters come and help you with your artwork. So if that's something you're interested in. If you can't make our December 1st workshop, you can always go to a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's as well. So making sure all artwork is matted. And lastly, you need to get your paperwork signed and collected. Each student has to have 2 pieces of paperwork. The first one is release of liability agreement, and it also is the certification form that it was original. It's all their own work, that the student didn't copy anything. They have to sign a paper saying that. And then the last piece of paper, or the last paperwork, is the school art program ID card and student affidavit. So that is where you're writing about your title, and you're getting all of that information so that if that student were to win and move on to the next level of competition, we have all that information already. So those are kind of some very quick, basic things to think about when doing rodeo art in your classroom. Now, each school is able to submit 6 pieces. That's each school. So if you're not sure who your rodeo contact person is, make sure you ask your principal to find out who that person who will be collecting all the paperwork, collecting all the artwork, and turning it into Dr. Michael Ann Kelly at the Aldine ISD Resource Center. So make sure you talk to your principal and figure out who that is. If you're interested in becoming a rodeo point person, talk to your principal and they can get you on a mailing list. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to email Dr. Michael Ann Kelly, Director of Visual Arts, at mkelly@aldineisd.org.